Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio. We're the Radio Turn Podcast. I'm Scott. We've got Shane and Paris in the house. Welcome, guys. How are we doing this week?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Scott? Haven't talked to you since last week.
I know, and last week I was late because I was asleep. That was awesome. The podcast at 5 p.m. when Scott's going to fall asleep. That was weird. I don't even remember why I fell asleep. I just knew I was exhausted. Oh, I had only 2 hours of sleep that night.
That's funny. I was almost late myself this time because I was watching some videos on some
almost
things.
You were late. You're like 5 minutes late. You're like 2 minutes.
Well, come on, 2 or 3 minutes is
7.
Isn't there a grace period?
Nope, no grace period.
We're not a library.
If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
Oh, that's a good point. That's actually
that's my take.
All right. That's fair. Well, we're live today, broadcasting on our TikTok as well as we're here doing this recording for you guys listening. Thank you for participating with us and being part of the Prepper Talk Radio family. Make sure you hit preppertalkradio.com, subscribe to the newsletter. Also, join our group on Facebook if you're so inclined, or you can also follow us on all the other channels. Just search Prepper Talk Radio. For those of you watching us on YouTube or anywhere else, you can see our banner going across the bottom, which actually tells you to follow us, and tells us if we ever watch our shows to follow us. So this episode is brought to you by the Ready Summit, coming to you live in just a couple weeks, the 24th of September. We're just around the corner. And September is National Preparedness Month. So hopefully you guys are taking steps right now to get better prepared. And with that, I'm serious. With that, you should be expanding your knowledge, expanding that library in your brain, because whether there comes a point or not in the future where things on the digital side disappear for a little while, you're going to wish that you had increased that knowledge. And that's what the Ready Summit's all about. So go ahead and go out over there, use the coupon code PrepperTalk to save 10% on your purchase. Discount memberships available there. Guys, I'm excited. This is going to be a fun episode. Let's just jump into it. The topic for the day is the next 90 days. What that means. We did an episode a few months ago on the 90-day home store, or the 90-day pantry, as a lot of people like to call it. We want to talk about the next 90 days. Like, what do you focus on for the next 90 days after you've completed your 90-day pantry? 90-day pantry being all the stuff in your fridge, the things you eat every week, the canned foods, the things that you recycle. You're restocking that supply, including things like your bandages, the things that you use, medicines, tools. Are there certain things that you use a lot? Make sure you put that on your list. Well, this episode's all about what do you do for the next 90 days? How do you expand that to the next 90 days? So now you're going to have 180 days of stockpile, of storehouse, right, in your home. Things that you use on the frequent, things that you use, things that you need. And I think with this being National Preparedness Month, my number one thing is at this point, because you've got your 90 days, is to expand your food and then expand your medical. Always expanding water as well. But I really think this is where you want to get into more food. And it's also harvest season, right? So you should be doing some canning over the next month. Hopefully this will give you some thoughts and other things you can add to the queue for your next 90 days.
And we usually base those decisions off of the survival rules of 3. We talk about that a lot, right? So shelter, water, food, right, in that order. Mm-hmm. Those are the most important things for survival. So yeah, it absolutely makes sense, like you're saying, Scott, to first step be food, right? And water should be taken care of in your first 90 days, right? Because that's one of the hardest steps. You can only store so much. We recommend at least 2 weeks of water, and then have a plan how to get more and filters and so forth. But yeah, like Scott's saying, food should be number one to expand that additional 90 days.
Yeah, and just to recap, what episode 198 actually is where we talked about the 90-day home store, the 90-day food storage plan. And just to recap real quick is that Scott already kind of talked about is that what do you do for breakfast? Take that and just extrapolate it out for 3 days. What do you eat for lunch? What do you eat for dinners? Just get canned foods, get all that stuff. So really get your plan together, what you're already eating. This is stuff you're already eating. You're just going to buy and have a large enough pantry that you could eat that. You wouldn't have to go to the store for 3 months. That's kind of the idea of the 90-day home store, is that if necessary, you don't have to go to the store to pick up all those basic things that you need for 3 months. And so when you do go to the store, though, because you are going to go every week, you just rotate. You use the stuff and you rotate it through. And the the rule of thumb on water storage is a gallon, at minimum, a gallon per person in your per adult, actually, and it might even be per person, just to be safe. A gallon per person per day is the rule of thumb. So I have 5 people in my household, so I need 5 gallons per day. So if I'm going to have a 10-day, I need 50 gallons. So one of those 55-gallon drums that you can buy, those blue barrels, one of those is basically going to take care of my family for about a week or 10 days. And then so I need to just maybe make sure that I have 90 days. So I need to have 9 of those as an example, to really make sure that you really have enough water for that kind of stuff. And so really after that 90-day period, though, it's really now getting into some of the more long-term storage, more, because Shane, you just mentioned you can only store so much water. So after 90 days of storage, what should you do? Well, you need to have something that you can procure water with, that you can filter water with, someplace you can go nearby, a source, a resource where you can go and look at, or maybe a river, a stream, lake, something nearby. You need to plan this out before that 90 days comes up. You need to know where you can go. Exactly. Because if you don't know the nearest reservoir, the nearest stream or river, you're going to be stuck trying to travel at the wrong time. So get ahead of it and learn where those things are. And I know we have a great link in the description about a water pump that's fantastic for being able to draw water out of a lake or river or reservoir, filter it, and put it into a bucket that you can then carry back to your home. So that's a plug, a little bit of a plug there for that.
Yeah, and also keep in mind the weight of water, 8.3 pounds per gallon. So if you need 1 gallon per person per day, and you've got, like, say, 5 in your family, 8 times 5, that's a lot of weight to carry. And you really got to know how far you're going to go for that water. If you got to go 3 miles, 40 plus pounds, that's not an easy thing to pack 4 miles, 3-4 miles. So look at different alternatives, how to carry that water, and how to potentially even get more and make fewer trips. And I've got a plan I'd be happy to share.
Please.
Well, basically what I've got for my water storage, I have those totes. They're 275-gallon tote. They're actually a container within a kind of a cage on a pallet. And once my water storage is empty, I have a small 5x8 trailer. I'll pop that in there. That trailer will hold about 2,000 pounds. That tote full of water will be about 2,000 pounds. And I have a 2-inch Honda gas water pump with about 20-foot intake hose and 50-foot about output hose. And so the idea is my local river is about 3 miles away. Throw it in my trailer, drive down to the river. And because I wanted to go 2-inch, because I can do that, get those kind of gallons within a minute. I can get that, do it very quickly, and hopefully safely, depending on what's happening at the time, and be able to fill that tote within, by the time I open the doors, back up to the river, get the generator going, get the water pump going, fill that thing within a couple of minutes, and then I'm out of there quickly.
Really?
So that is my first option for getting more water. In a large volume that'll last another 275 gallons. It'll last me another month. So I only have to do that not very often, and maybe I could do it in the dark at night,
right,
when it's maybe a little safer, maybe a little dangerous, more dangerous. Who knows?
Well, that's where it's like, okay, there's the cost benefit of analysis of everything in life, right? If you look at prepping like a business, make your decisions based on how would a business make those decisions. You'll make better decisions for yourself. What's going to cost more, what's going to be feasible, what's going to be fastest, what's going to be simplest. And honestly, usually the simplest answer is the best answer. Now I'm getting a phone call. That was weird. Because I've got it on live, it's allowing the volume to come through. So I apologize.
Well, that's a good point, Scott, because I have this trailer. I've had it for a long time. It's not like I bought it
Mm-hmm.
just for this purpose. I did buy the water pump just for this purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And the totes is what I have for my water storage. So
Yeah.
So that water pump with the hoses, yeah, I spent about $750 on that setup. You
Right.
could go with a smaller setup, less expensive. You could go to Harbor Freight, get a cheaper water pump, which probably would work just fine because you're not going to use it very often, right?
And if you're really trying to save money, you can get the water bladders that you can put in the back of your truck, right? If you've got a truck.
Mhm.
Other things is like people talk about folding carts or the gorilla carts to pull if you're going to be doing this on foot, because
Mhm.
trying to pack the weight of everything on you. Just so people understand, those little carts hold up to about 180 pounds, depending on which one you're buying. The foldable ones, the gorilla cart's 1,200 pounds.
Wow.
Mhm.
Now, owning a gorilla cart, putting 500 pounds in that thing kind of sucks to pull,
And it's going to run away from you too if you're not careful. You have multiple people there.
right? So
Hmm.
everything you might make sense versus it might not make sense for your situation. If you can't hike a long distance, or if it's hard to get to your home, these options might not be feasible options. You might have to relocate so that you're closer to a water source.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where I live, I have 3 streams, a golf course with a bunch of ponds, so stagnant water, yuck. And then I have a spring that's 3 miles away. The spring is some of the best water I've had. But it's
But you got to
3 miles
hike to it,
away.
right?
I've got to get to it. I've got to get down the big, huge mountain to it, and then I can come back up the mountain. That's a problem, right? I wish I had a well here. But
Yeah.
my backup is we relocate to another location that actually has additional water. Like on the property, I've got almost 2,000 gallons of water. That's going to hold us here for a while so that we're okay, as long as somebody doesn't break in and contaminate it or destroy it, right? I've got enough filters to get through all of it, but I don't have a way to save it if somebody decides they're going to puncture it all and let it drain out, right? Or if somebody puts a chemical additive to it, gets to it and destroys it that way, there's another problem, right? So you have to look at all those things and try to make what is the simplest solution for me, what is the best course of action for me. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to be small totes that you can go refill, like those Aqua Bricks or Aqua Blocks, the 2 good companies. Be able to get those and go fill them up, but they're easy to carry. You can have one on each side. You don't have to fill them up all the way to maneuver with them. But also, like we're going to be using those to take the water from where it's currently stored to get it into the house.
Here's another quick idea. I've got a small 15-gallon drum, like your 55-gallon drum, but 15 gallons. I can put that on a small dolly, like a furniture dolly or something like that from Home Depot for $120 for one of those dollies. And with the big inflatable tires, they could go over a little bit rougher terrain, and you could haul that thing down to river. It might be a little difficult. It's going to be weigh about 150 pounds at that point, but it's I think a lot better than making multiple trips. Just get creative with your thinking like that.
Well, yeah, and that's more in line with what one person could carry. If it got away from them, they could still kind of handle the 150 pounds.
Well, and like water catchment, one of the people in the group asked that's also a fantastic option, right? Yep. I've got water catchment in my front yard and side yard. Depending on where you live and what regulations you can and can't do, you may have to be sneaky about it. But I can only catch, air quotes on this, up to 100 gallons and hold it.
In Utah, I understand it's I think it's 200 gallons.
Did they just change it?
You can catch.
That's what it was up until.
I don't know. It's last time I researched, because I do have some barrels around my house as well.
Okay.
Last time I checked, it was 200 gallons. If it's over 200 gallons, I think you have to apply for a permit, or maybe it's more than that.
You do have to apply for a permit. That's what they said over the 100 gallons.
Okay.
But
maybe 100 gallons is the new one. Maybe 200 is the old, but.
Yeah, well, they did just also say that all rainwater is dangerous because of the chemicals that are in them, which gets into something that we're not going to
chemicals.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about too much of the spraying that they've done.
Yeah,
but be careful about that. Rainwater is still needs to be filtered, and make sure you follow your local ordinances.
It is considered distilled water at that point, right? Other than what it catches.
Follow your local ordinances.
There you go.
and regulations, everybody.
That's how we stay on YouTube.
And if you can't, don't tell anyone.
Right?
Yeah, Scott, it does say 100 gallons per
Okay.
container. You leave up to
they've
100 gallons per container with a maximum of 2 vessels on your property. So 200 gallons.
there you go, 200 gallons in Utah.
But 100-gallon maximum per container. It's going to be different from state to state.
Yeah.
But even
we got
Utah
a lot of listeners.
owns rainwater.
We got a lot of listeners in Texas and California. Above, Utah, Texas, and California are the top 3. But California, they're not going to be able to collect as much rainwater as we can in these other states. So,
yeah. And for rainwater, that my main plan to use that is on the garden or flushing toilets or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah, you can filter it as well. And coming off an asphalt roof is probably not the best idea to drink either. If you have a metal roof, that's obviously better. But
general rule of thumb is always filter your water. Always. Like if you can even have a better filtration system and purification process, even better. But everything, like I've got 3 275 gallon IBC totes that I'm integrating into my property for rain catchment. I mean 100 gallon container. Shoot. Maybe edit that out. Anyways, doesn't matter. But I'm integrating those right now, but we haven't had any rain in a while. Right?
Just an emergency, right? It's just
in an emergency.
Right?
We'll turn it on in an emergency, collect the water if we need to. But like right now, one of the places that I would normally go to refill water as a backup, it dried up. And I knew it would happen. I every year, typically at the end of September, it dries up until about the beginning of November, then it'll start trickling again, and then it'll freeze. But what's funny is because of the droughts and because of the lack of rain, I guess funny. Oh no, funny. It's dried up. It dried up about 3 weeks ago. So always have redundancies. So as we're talking about the 90-day extension, right? We've done the 90-day pantry a few months ago, the 90-day extension to get you to 180 days. You also need to think about getting more creative with your storage. A lot of people can fit 90 days in one closet and their pantry if they have a pantry, or then expanding into their cupboards. I would say, and obviously there's only a few places you can put your food in the garage, like Alaska and northern Canada. But other than that, like you've got to be able to put your food and your resources somewhere, right? Cool, dry spaces.
And keep in mind, if you are short on space, freeze dried and dehydrated are going to give you the most calories per size of container per square foot or cubic foot or however you want to do that. Other than that, you'll go with grains. They're going to take up obviously larger spaces. Canned foods take up more space. But if you have the money to go freeze dried, that's going to take up the least amount of space.
But what I was getting to is like figure out your storage. Like if you need to raise a bed, put it on blocks, or take the box spring out and just build a standing form to put the whole thing on, kind of a jack stand, get it up and put your food somewhere safe. Like there's so many ways, and it's super inexpensive. Like when I lived in Arizona and California, when I was sharing apartments, I had a raised bed. At one point, my bed was 3.5 feet off the ground, the platform. Wow. And then I had curtains all the way around it. And I showed it to the corner, and everyone's like, "Why is your bed so high?" And I'm like, "I just like sleeping high. It's just, I don't know what it is." But the reality was I had 6 months of food storage, medicines, and other things underneath my bed.
That's awesome.
And then I also had my get home bags. Right. So I had things that I could fit under that bed. Did it look funny? Yeah. But I slept fine, except for when the earthquakes came, a little more shaking than a regular bed because I was higher up, but it was more fun also. But make use of space. I got rid of the box spring, and that gave me about 8 inches of extra space. I could raise the bed and have a platform.
Yeah, you could even have it under the box spring. I remember growing up in my parents' house. They growing up as a kid, they always had these big boxes of wheat and flour and sugar and other things underneath their bed. And I thought, what is this? And it was their food storage. It was our food storage for the time, and that's brilliant. I mean, one of the things I did is I went through my linen closets and got rid of my linen closets all the linens, how many sheets did I need? How many pillowcases did I need? How many blankets do you really need? I mean, you need blankets, but make sure that you're at the level what you really need. And then that clears out some space. I did some minimalizing and some, you just broke it down to what I really needed. And I had 3 or 4 more shelves. I just stuck bags of wheat and sugar and salt and rice onto those shelves, and had a huge amount of space that freed up because I went through and kind of did that. So that's also another really good idea.
And when it comes down to it, to either have the food or not have the food, stack it in the corner, put a sheet over it, rather than not have it, right?
Absolutely.
Pile it in the middle of the room and put a sheet over it. But get the food.
That's important.
Get the food. One of the things is, like, you never know when you're going to have a supply chain issue, when you're going to have a disaster that could affect you. Like, I lived in Florida when I was in Florida, we had tropical storms. We had one tropical storm lasted for 4 days where we weren't supposed to go out. We weren't supposed to go anywhere. We were supposed to be shelter in place. And for some people, that would have been massive disruption. Water that we could drink got shut off on the 4th day. They're like, sorry, we can't even run things because it's going to cause a problem. So hopefully you've stored some water. And we had gallons of water that we didn't care. We were fine. We had food, didn't care. We're fine. Like, as you expand that, and always remember to rotate everything you have, it just gets simpler, and you're just like, oh, there's a hiccup for the rest of the world. Okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And if you're not having to rescue yourself in those situations, you're just simplifying your life.
I think something to remember is that once you get that 90-day supply set up, that's your everyday rotation. That's what you're eating all the time anyways, regular lifestyle. That beyond that, though, that's where you can get those number 10 cans or those 25-year up to 25-year shelf life foods. I mean, I went down, and those staples are critical for that, because, I could take a can of beans in my 90-day supply and I can add it to my 6 months, my outside of that, my number 10 can of rice. And now I've extended that food even further because I've got beans and rice now, and that rice lasts way longer. And rice is really inexpensive, especially when you buy it in bulk like that. So one of the things that I did is I got these, the rotation is my 90 days. And then outside of that, I have the long-term bulk items and the staples. I have the wheat, I have the sugar, I have the flour, I have the rice. I have actually got several number 10 cans of different noodles, like spaghetti bite stuff like that. And then those are the things that I'm really growing and expanding. And then I buy, like Shane mentioned, the freeze dried and the dehydrated foods to kind of add a little flavor, because you want to, rice is, you can live on rice and beans, but man, if you had a couple of spices or a little bit of extra little cup of noodle soup from a freeze dried package that you could throw in there, just give it a little flavor and a little taste, it will make that thing go a long way. In fact, when I was doing a lot of food storage, and the year supply was the 13 bean soup. And man, that's you can get, 25, 50 pound bags of beans, or number 10 cans of beans and rice. And then a couple of these other spice, like tomato sauce and tomatoes, diced tomatoes and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get that much, maybe $400 or $500, and you could have a year's supply for one person. Just that. I mean, you're going to live. At the end of the day, you're going to live. You may not be, the nice food you're used to, but I'd rather have food that I can live than no food. And you know what I mean? So that's one of the things that I recommend.
The other option is not very fun.
Yeah, and also keep in mind the energy you're going to need to prepare these foods, right? If it's rice and beans, it's going to have to cook longer, boil longer, and you need more fuel to cook those. Whereas if you have something freeze dried or dehydrated, you boil water. Once it gets to boiling, you put it in the pouch, you mix it up, and let it sit, and you're done with it, using that gas stove or however you're heating water, or even potentially out in the sun. Yes, that food is a lot more expensive. But like you say, Paris, at times it's nice to get away from the rice and beans and then have a nice chicken a la king or something, something really tasty from Mountain House or something like that. Like, oh man, that tasted so good. Rice and beans, I was getting to learn to really like those, but man, that chicken a la king, that was good.
Yeah,
and it was quick too, right? And sometimes, especially in an emergency situation, you need something quick and easy to prepare. So you got to have a variety. In my opinion, you got to have a good variety of all that stuff.
What's interesting is like, okay, a year supply of food freeze dried is going to be $7,000 and up. on average
for the right quality, right? For the good
for
quality,
just one person. Yeah.
right? You can find the cheaper stuff, but
A large freeze dryer is $3,600 right now. So you could take that $3,600 and the money that you would spend on buying on the processing of the food to get it cooked and then freeze dried to then sell to you, you're going to recoup that, and you could take that same $7,000 and you could probably have enough freeze dried food for the whole family for at least 6 more months.
But that's a lot of work, Scott. That's to
Not
put
really.
all those meals together.
Oh my gosh!
You got to make all the
not
meals,
a
and
lot of work.
then you got to freeze dry them, and then you got to package them. You got to get the Mylar
Have
bag.
you ever freeze dried?
My neighbor has one. We've used theirs, but I do not have a freeze dryer.
Okay, let me clarify how easy this is.
But you got to prepare the food.
No. Wait.
Okay, go
let me clarify. Because we have one. You cook extra. When you make one meal,
okay,
you make more.
Mm-hmm.
And then you drop that in your freeze dryer. Instead of dropping it in the fridge as leftovers, you drop that in the freeze dryer. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you do it all one day and you just crank it all out. Like you get the small freeze dryer, which is, I think, the best opportunity for anybody. You're $2,500. You get a small freeze dryer. You're freeze drying a couple meals a week, and you're getting it like totally done. Like when I do lasagna, I used to do 2 pans. Because then I could eat it for the next 2 weeks and I'd be fine. Or I put one in the freezer after I cook it, right? And there was a period of time where it's like, oh, we don't have a freeze dryer, don't have anything to do anything with. So it's just like, and I'm the only one that eats it still. My kids are starting to, but it's like, okay, let's make less. But I'm like, I could easily go back to making more, and it takes maybe 5 extra minutes to make it all.
But you're also assuming you have time to prepare, right? I mean, that's going to take some time to be able to put 3 months worth of freeze dried food together for your entire family. I'm thinking
of did an episode on.
I'm thinking of let's do this quickly, right? That's always my mindset. Okay, we need to get the 3 months, so let's do this quickly. So what's it going to take to put 3 months worth of meals together?
We're on the next 90 days, though.
Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. Another 3 months worth of food storage in freeze dryer. Just arguing with you, Scott. But no, I agree. I think
I love this.
A freeze dryer would be great. I have nowhere to put a freeze dryer. Absolutely nowhere. And yeah, like you, we make extra, stick it in the fridge and eat it for the week.
But here's the coolest thing you could do with the freeze dryer. And this is why, like, this is the mind blow moment that you guys may think I'm stupid or genius.
All right.
It's one or the other.
It's one or the other, or maybe somewhere in between. I don't know. I bought I love Mountain House. Mountain House does freeze-dried ice cream. I love ice cream sandwiches.
I saw you eat one the other day on your video.
It was delicious. But let me take this a level farther. Within about 45 minutes of my home, there is a outlet that sells the best ice cream sandwiches in the whole world. They're called Fat Boys. That is part of the problem, but also part of the solution for the future. Now, hang tight. I could take those, throw them in the freezer, a little colder temperature, pull them out, lay them I just lay them across the trays. I got room for 3 trays at the smaller one. They're selling these for $4 a pop for the cheap garbage ones. Okay. I could take these Fat Boys and freeze dry them overnight. I'm sleeping, no extra work. It takes maybe 10 minutes to get it all prepped and ready to go. And another 5 minutes to drop them in to Mylar bags and have it done, because you're not preparing anything. And then when the apocalypse comes, I'll be trading like Fat Boys for bullets, Band-Aids, and everything else, because everyone's like, you got ice cream, and not only the best, like not only just ice cream, the best ice cream in the world. Like, what? I will give you my house. You can have my mansion in the mountains. I'm hungry. Like, yeah, you may think I'm the most crazy person in the world right now, but like, you could do so much.
Have you tried freeze-dried raspberries?
Yes,
they're just
it's candy.
Delightful. It's candy, absolutely. So,
right?
Well, not arguing with you. I would love to have one.
If you remember the Be Prepared Expo we had, there was a lady there was selling little candies, freeze-dried Skittles, and the freeze-dried
Skittles,
all kinds of different other things too. And she was making money.
$10 a pound.
I bet that's a great way to little side hustle.
That's true.
That's a prepper's side hustle.
No, $10 a bag, and each bag is like super light. I can't even remember how much, but they're small.
Yeah, you could one bag of Skittles could probably give you 5 or 6 bags of those freeze-dried Skittles.
Yeah.
And then you buy $1.50 for a bag of Skittles and you go sell it for 30 or 40 freeze-dried.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good return on investment.
She's killing it. But I'm like, if you just did ice cream and like just this normal stuff you buy and eat, like anything you have that's completely prepared, and you're like, oh, we've got tons of leftovers. That's the whole idea behind Harvest Right and the other freeze-dried companies is take what you're already making, make a little more.
And while you have the cheap energy and the time, do that now.
Yeah.
Whereas later, it's going to be more expensive. The electricity is going to be more expensive and harder to find more time to do it too, especially when the emergency already hits, right?
And that's the thing. It's like whatever you have time with now, use that time. Whatever you have the abilities now. If you've got money now and you don't have time, then you go buy a year's supply of freeze dry if you can, or another 90 days, right? You go buy water systems and filters, and you go buy backup battery banks. Like if you haven't already got, like, I don't think for most people, energy is the first 90 days for most people. Maybe a cheap generator, but like solar, battery banks, panels, and all that, I think that's more of a next 90 days, unless you've got a medical reason or an immediate need to have electricity right away. That's where I'm looking at for solar. And if you disagree, that's 100% okay. It's just, that's where I would put it in my priorities. Like I've got more than enough food and other supplies to last a while. I haven't done solar for the very reason that the cost is so expensive. It's very cost prohibitive to go buy a system, but it's on the Scotty wants list pretty bad. I've got my eyeball on a couple systems.
Well, we see what's happening over in Europe with their power. We know it's inevitable that that's going to happen here. Maybe not to the same scale, but and that's I just started looking for systems for my home as well. Just I really don't want to finance a system, but I'm considering it, right? Just like they typically do, but it's got to have a battery backup to it. Otherwise, you can't use it when the grid's down. So I'm really starting to look at that very closely. I've got generators and I've got small battery banks and such, but for the whole house, I'm looking at it even closer now. And like you're saying, Scott, is if you've got money in the bank, you've got cash currency in the bank. Make sure I use that word correctly. It's not money; it's currency. Hedge your inflation. Buy that food now. Freeze it, freeze dry it, whatever, and you're going to be ahead. Next year when our food's gone up 20%.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So.
And just to give you some tips on great places to buy this stuff, most of these grocery stores now, especially the big ones, have the bulk section. I know Winco is one that specifically that I used and have used. You can literally go, they actually have the number 10 cans that you can buy, the cans with the lids, and then you just put a little oxygen absorbers. I mean, it may not be the most efficient thing or effective thing, since we've learned, from Marcelo about really the proper way to do this, but at least that gives you something to start with. Throw a couple oxygen absorbers in there, get that thing sealed up, and then start saving the staples, the wheat, the rice, the beans, the sugar, stuff that's that long-term staple stuff. Another great place to go, and even if you're not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you can go look up Google LDS Home Storage Center. They literally, I've priced them out, and they have the number 10 cans. They sell boxes of 6 of them. It's probably the best price I've ever seen. I've searched, you could do it yourself and get the big bags at Costco or someplace, and then, get the 10 cans and probably save yourself 5 or 6 cents per can. But if you want it already done, look up Google LDS Home Storage, and you'll find a great price on those staple items already done for you.
Right. And anybody can go there.
store.churchofjesuschrist.org.
And you can order it online too.
Yeah. Seriously, some of the best prices.
Save yourself a ton of time, ton of money. In fact, let's turn the ticker off. Let me put that up as a comment here. Because the thing is like, if you're not doing something, right, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt, or worse. And that's what we don't want happening. And I just lost connection. Weird. Oh well. I'm not posting it. We'll put it in the notes. So look at the notes later. Check it out. But guys, like, the next 90 days, Hopefully by now you've got your first 90 days figured out and locked in. If you don't, right now is harvest season, and it's also case lot season. And with it being National Preparedness Month, you can get great deals from tons of suppliers.
And farmers markets are still open.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, we had a farmer's market down the street. Not even a real farmer's market. Just this guy puts all his produce out in his front yard, and they have a little canopy and sell it every evening. And they beat the grocery store by about 50%.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy cow, how do you do it this way? And he goes, oh, well, I have a huge plot of land behind me, and I don't do it for profit anymore. He's retired. He's like, I used to farm, but now I just farm for fun.
Yeah, and don't forget, I guess, Sydney and her canning, right? Because you haven't mentioned canning. That's
huge.
A lost art. I mean, it really is a lost art, and I'm not very good at it.
So guys, go follow Prepstetter on TikTok, because she is one of my favorite canners. She makes it the easiest to understand. She just has a way of doing it that it's not like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The old canning instructors that I grew up listening to were like the Ferris Bueller's Day Off teacher, and he's just like, Bueller, anybody, right? Canning, anybody,
Boring.
finger tight lids, like, oh my gosh. So we'll leave you guys with that. Like, get into canning. If you can afford some more freeze dry, get freeze dry. If you can afford dehydrated, get dehydrated. If you can't afford those, you just need, something. Get wheat and rice and beans.
Potato flakes.
Potato flakes are fantastic.
Yep.
Canned potatoes. Canned potatoes,
long
man.
Way.
You can put canned potatoes in pretty much any dish, I tell you.
And then make sure you're hitting up the Asian and the Hispanic stores for your spices, because you can get about 10 times more per dollar there than you do at the regular grocery store. So check out all your other local markets. You're going to find deals on things you need. This has been Prepper Talk Radio. We are radio for the ready-minded. Our goal here is to help you better prepare. This episode's been all about your next 90 days. After you've got your first 90-day pantry, storehouse figured out, locked down, now you expand into the next 90 days, and hopefully this is giving you some ideas on things to do. Storage, water, food, get it expanded, keep it growing, and get your family safe. Be ready, live ready, and enjoy it. This has been Scott, Shane, and Paris. We look forward to you on the next episode. Stay ready.
Take care.